کرم کے بادل برس رہے ہیں، دلوں کی کھیتی ہری بھری ہے۔ کرم کے بادل برس رہے ہیں، دلوں کی کھیتی ہری بھری۔
خاص نوجوانوں کے لیے تو ضرور ہے، لیکن عام طور پہ بھی آپ تمام حضرات کو بھی اس پروگرام میں حاضر رہنا چاہیے، اور اس سے بھی بہت کچھ آپ کو ملے گا، اور بہت سارے ٹاپکس ہیں انشاءاللہ تعالیٰ اس کے حوالے سے گفتگو ہوتی رہے گی۔ آج کے اس پروگرام میں خصوصی خطاب حضرت علامہ مولانا محمد راشد عطاری مدنی دامت برکاتہ العالیہ وہ انگلش میں خطاب کریں گے، آپ حضرات اسے سماعت کریں گے۔ آئیے اس پروگرام کا آغاز حسب معمول تلاوت قرآن عظیم سے کر رہا ہوں، اور تلاوت قرآن عظیم کے حوالے سے میں اپنے محدث-e-Azam مشن کے ایک مدرس حضرت مولانا محمد عالم سے گزارش کروں گا کہ وہ نعت پاک مصطفیٰ بھی پیش کریں گے اور تلاوت قرآن عظیم بھی فرمائیں گے۔ اس کے بعد انشاءاللہ تعالیٰ حضرت مولانا
الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم اِنَّا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العظيم صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وسلم عليك يا کس لیے فکر کرے حشر کے دن کیا ہوگا، کس لیے فکر کرے حشر کے دن کیا ہوگا، سامنے ان کے جو ہوگا بہت اچھا ہوگا، کس لیے فکر ان کے ہوتے ہوئے ظلمت کا تصور کیسا، ان کے ہوتے ہوئے ظلمت کا تصور کیسا، قبر میں میری اجالا ہی اجالا ہوگا، قبر میں میری اجالا ہی اجالا ہوگا، کس لیے فکر کرے حشر کے دن کیا ہوگا، نفسی نفسی کے سوا جب نہ سنائی دے گا، نفسی نفسی کے سوا جب نہ سنائی دے گا، ربی حب لی सदा को ये लगाता होगा बिहबेली की सदा को ये लगाता होगा किस लिए फिक्र रब्बी ने चाहा तो क़यामत में सभी देखेंगे रब्बी ने चाहा तो क़यामत में सभी देखेंगे उनके कदमों में पड़ा अख्तर खस्ता होगा उनके कदमों में पड़ा अख्तर खस्ता होगा किस लिए फिक्र करे हश्र के दिन क्या होगा।
अब मैं मुअद्दबाना हज़रत मौलाना साहब की खिदमत में इल्तिमास करूँगा हज़रत तशरीफ़ लाएँ और अपने खिताब नवाज से हमारे दिलों को मुस्तफ़िज़ फरमाएँ। नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे रिसालत।
उलमा अहले सुन्नत जिंदाबाद, अवाम अहले सुन्नत जिंदाबाद।
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला सय्यिदिल मुरसलीन अम्मा बअद फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अलैका या रसूलल्लाह व अला आलिका व अस्हाबिका या हबीबल्लाह। Sarkar do Alam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stated that whoever recites the Baq upon me 3 times in the day and 3 times in the evening, then I will intercede for him shafa'ah on the day of judgment. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There's an interesting, the whole of the Quran Sharif is interesting. There's one particular ayat in Surah Hashr, the 59th Surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 19. لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. Do not be like the people who forgot Allah and then Allah Ta'ala made them forget themselves. The wording of this ayat kalima is very it's interesting. Don't forget Allah Ta'ala because Allah Ta'ala will then make you forget yourself. So forgetting Allah Ta'ala, the word nisyan is forgetting in Arabic. So anyone who forgets Allah Ta'ala really forgets himself. He will forget himself. What does that mean? The Mufassirin say that. In other words, when humans forget their Creator, then they forget what is good or bad for themselves. They have no understanding of what is right. And, you know, we use the term in this day and age, so-and-so is, he's lost it or he's lost. When we want to say that he doesn't know what he's doing with his life, or he's confused about his life, or he's leading the wrong kind of life, we say he's lost. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, He's telling us in the Quran, when you forget your Creator, then you do become lost. You lose yourself. You lose yourself. When someone forgets, neglects Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and he doesn't trust Allah Ta'ala, and he trusts the people, then Allah Ta'ala leaves you to the people. Allah Ta'ala leaves you to the asbab. If you trust the asbab and you trust the dunya, and you don't trust your Creator, then He leaves you to the dunya. He leaves you to your efforts. And then you can't expect divine guidance and divine assistance from the unseen if you don't trust your Creator, if you trust the people. So the wording of this ayah Kareemah, those who forget Allah, Allah Ta'ala makes them forget themselves. They don't even know what's right or wrong for themselves. They don't understand their identity. And this is a great problem that we hear about in this day and age, identity crisis. Who am I? What is it I want in life? Where am I heading in life? These are questions that the non-Muslims, especially atheists, are always asking themselves, where am I heading in life? You know, who am I? What am I? And As I go along, inshallah, my intention is to talk about zikr and the power of zikr and different forms of zikr and our strengthening our own spirituality. But just a few facts, a few statistics from the internet about how, in this day and age, depression is a huge problem. People are turning, even non-Muslims are turning towards, like one avenue they're turning towards is yoga. Yoga as like a physical or a mental exercise. Not, some people do it religiously, but many people do it just for that inner peace, peace of mind. Happiness today is a science that is studied by experts, and millions of pounds are spent every single year on books, writing self-help books to help people to deal with anxiety, depression, and how to be happy. Happiness is a science today that's being studied. Let me just give you a few statistics that I came across on the internet. According to a 2016 yoga journal, 36.7 million people practice yoga in the US. The yoga market now is worth £12 billion in the US and £74 billion globally. And in the UK, yoga was one of Google's most searched for words in 2016, whilst the yoga business in the UK brings in £812 million a year. £812 million a year in the UK, the yoga business. So this shows people are in search for mental, what are the reasons, what motivates people to practice yoga. Reasons range from 54%, there was one survey that 54% of people doing yoga is to release tension. 43% said that it was to feel happier, and 27% of people said it was to get more me time. 21% of people said to feel less lonely, and 20% of people said to unplug from technology. So the maqsad, the niyat in mentioning these statistics, and there's there are dozens of more statistics, but people are desperate for happiness. People are desperate for mental peace in this day and age. People are desperate for mental peace. British people rank amongst the most depressed people in Western Europe. A recent survey then said that the number of people depressed in Britain, in UK, is more than double that of people in Greece, Italy and Poland. The data also showed that women are more likely to report the condition than men. Women are more likely to suffer from mental issues than men. And Britain came in joint 7th place with Sweden and Luxembourg, with 10% of 25 to 64-year-olds reporting to have depression. So where is sukoon, where is peace? We all know as Muslims, we've been hearing this ayat karima since we were children, that peace and satisfaction lies in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So zikr, inshallah, the power of zikr, all zikr is an equal as well, different sigas. Sayyidi Ala Imam Ahmad Azafan Fazili Baridi radiallahu ta'ala, he says in Malfuz Sharif, he says that when he talks about La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that many shuyukh, if your heart is darkened and your spirit is darkened, your soul, you're addicted to sins, you're obsessed to sins. So many shuyukh will advise their murids to do zikr of just La ilaha illallah, just the first half, because the effect of La ilaha illallah is very strong, the impact is spiritually quite heavy. And if someone's obsessed with sins and he's got a dark soul or a dark heart, then he needs a heavy, an intense impact, a sakht impact. So the shuyukh would say, someone who's addicted to guna, just do the wird of La ilaha illallah like 100 times and say Muhammadur Rasulullah once at the end. And the Sayyidi Ala Rahmatullahi says, it's because Muhammad, the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in its impact, in its effect, it's much more, it has jamal inside it, it has much coolness, it's a cooler effect inside the name of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But because this particular individual, he's suffering from a hard heart or he's addicted to sins, he needs a heavy spiritual dose of vitamins. And that La ilaha illallah, which is like a zarbe shadeed, it has the name of Allah Ta'ala, has jalal and kahr inside it. So that has a stronger effect. So not all the zikrs have the same effect. Different sigas of zikrs have different effects. And we shouldn't, one of the benefits of doing zikr loudly and in a jama'at, zikr alone and zikr quietly has its own asr, and zikr in a jama'at and zikr with other people has its own effect. So sometimes when we're together and we're doing zikr loudly, what happens is that there might be 10 people. If you on your own have a weak soul, have a weak heart, and if you're doing zikr on your own, well, you're doing zikr, but it's not impacting because of the way you're doing it, it's not having the strong impact. But if there's 10 weak people, even if they are all of the same weakness as you, that 10 people, that weakness of 10 people put together creates a certain level of strength as well. That's assuming that everyone there is as weak as you. But there's also the possibility that if you're doing zikr in a gathering, because our souls give off this light, this ruhani light, this ruhani power, there could be one person inside the gathering, he's doing it with more khulus than the other people, with more sincerity than the other people. Allah Ta'ala is accepting his zikr, and due to his barakat, Allah Ta'ala is enlightening your heart as well. So that's the benefit of being, like the impact of zikr when you're together is stronger. Like even in jama'at, in namaz, the ahadith say that sometimes, when one of the benefits of praying with jama'at is sometimes there's a person in the jama'at, it's because of that one person Allah Ta'ala accepts the namaz of every single person in that jama'at. Sometimes on hajj, Allah Ta'ala accepts everyone's hajj because of one person. Because of the purity of one person's heart. Because there's one wali, there's one saint there. It's for his sadaqah and for his sake that Allah Ta'ala accepts everyone's hajj. So we shouldn't think that doing zikr on our own is the same as doing it in a congregation. The effect is much stronger as well. Sayyidina Moulana Rumi Rahmatullah says in one of his books, the example of zikr and waswasa, he says a naked man jumps into a river and with wasps swarming, or bees, hornets swarming above him, and the water is the zikr, but he dives into the water, he saves himself from being stung by the wasps. That water is the zikr of Allah. And the wasps in our lives on a daily basis, they are wasawis, they are like sexual, lustful thoughts. This woman, that woman, or if it's a woman, she'll have waswasa about men. So if his head comes up out of the water, then they will sting him. They will sting him. So Allama Rumi Rahmatullah says, for as long as you're in the water, make that water your life, make it the zikr of Allah Ta'ala, breathe water, become the river from your head to feet. So, and then the hornets, the wasps, they will leave you alone, even if you are far from the river, because you've turned yourself into the river. You've turned yourself into the water. And so, and what he's trying to say is immerse yourself, become fana fillah, become fana fil dhikr, make zikr the main thing in your life, the main thing in your life. Sarkar Alam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in a hadith mubarakah, whoever recites A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim 10 times every single day, Allah Ta'ala will appoint an angel to him to protect and defend him from the shaitan. Defend him from the shaitan. So one shaykh, the shaitan said to one particular shaykh, he said, when I came to you to fight you and to put wasawis in your mind, I was as strong and I was fit and big as a camel. But just after a few days of spending time with you, I've turned into a sparrow. I've turned into a small sparrow. And the Shaykh asked him, well, what turned you? Was it that had that effect? And he said, it's because you do the zikr of Allah Ta'ala, that melts me. That melts me. And there's another hadith, Shaykh, which also says that when a person recites Bismillah, the shaitan melts. It melts. So, A'udhu Billah and Bismillah, these are two vids that we should make necessary in our lives. So the glorious Quran, it tells us, it doesn't just say remember Allah Ta'ala. It says فَذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَذِكْرِكُمْ آبَاءَكُمْ أَوْ أَشَدَّ ذِكْرًا. Mention Allah the way you mention your parents, in fact even more than that. So, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا. So it's not just a dhikr, it's a dhikran kathira, it's excessive dhikr. It's not just mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's actually mention Him abundantly, excessively. And there's a famous hadith, قُلْتِ يَا ابْنَ آدَمْ قُمْ إِلَيَّ أَمْشِ إِلَيْكَ وَامْشِ إِلَيَّ أُهَرْوِلُ إِلَيْكَ. O son of Adam, O man, stand to me. Allah Ta'ala says, if you stand to me, I will walk to you. And if you walk to me, I will run to you. I will run to you. And we obviously know our Aqidah is that Allah Ta'ala doesn't have a body. What it's talking about, the rahmat, the nusrat, the madad khas of Allah Ta'ala, His mercy will run to you. His mercy. He doesn't have a physical form. Sayyidi Ala Hazrat Imam Ahmad Khan Fazil Birayli Rahmatullah, he says, this is quoted in Hayati Ala Hazrat, when a person wakes up inside in the morning, then your thoughts are like waves of electricity. It's like they're scattered all over the place. And if you don't control and if you don't focus on your thoughts in the morning, then they will remain scattered throughout the entire day. So it's very important that you control them as soon as you wake up. And so he says the way to do that is as soon as your eye opens, the first thing you should do is mentally, you don't even have to say this verbally, just inside, read the Kalima Sharif 3 times inside your mind to capture your thoughts and focus, bring your concentration in one place. And if you do that, as soon as you wake up, you focus and you bring together your concentration, you prevent it from scattering, then inshallah you will remain like that, focused throughout the rest of the day as well in the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Mashaykh say, and they also say, the Mashaykh, that the way you sleep at night is the way that you will wake up in the morning. And the way you die is the way that you will rise on the day of judgment. So if you're sleeping in a state of zikr before you sleep, do the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then inshallah you will wake up doing the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But sadly, if you're sleeping and you're watching the internet, etc., and clips on YouTube before going to sleep, and you're sleeping in a state of ghafla, then there's a good chance that that person will be ghafil in the morning and probably be ghafil from his namaz as well. So as well as there being other psychological harms of watching these bright screens with the whole room dark and just the light of your screen coming, there's medical harms of that on your brain, on your eyes. You won't get as good a sleep. Your body isn't going to rest the way it would if you didn't have all those flashing images before you went to sleep. But there's that spiritual harm as well, the nuqsan that we're doing to our hearts and our souls as well. There's a hadith in Tirmidhi Sharif, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated, do not speak excessively other than the zikr of Allah Ta'ala, because excessive speech, it hardens the heart. Dil ki sakhti. It hardens the heart. So even when we talk about spirituality, ruhaniyat, gunah, you have the sins that will darken. Every time someone commits a sin, a black dot appears on his heart. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. And the more sins you commit, the blacker the stain increases until if a person is obsessed with sins and is addicted to sins, he can get so bad that his whole heart becomes black and it shuts it down. And shutting down means that even if he hears anything good, it won't penetrate his heart. If he commits a sin, he won't be ashamed of committing that sin. And he will have no inclination towards good deeds at all. The Sufiya call this in the terminology of the Sufis, ruhani qalb. Ruhani qalb, the tightness, the spiritual tightness. Spiritual tightness, batini qalb, spiritual tightness of the heart. तसव्वुफ की इस्तिलाह में कब्ज़ यानी अल्लाह ताला की तरफ दिल की याद, दिल का माइल ना होना, इसका इलाज सिर्फ सोहबत शेख है. If a person has reached that stage where he's reached the batini qabd, his heart is shut down due to excessive sins, the only cure for that is the sohbat, the company of a sheikh. एक लम्हे का बातिनी कब्ज़ इन याद इलाही की तरफ दिल का मुतवज्जे ना होना भी इस कदर तबाहकुन है, तवील रियाजतों और इबादतों को भी इंतहाई कमज़ोर कर देता है. One moment of spiritual qabd, of tightness of the chest, it can make invalid and waste months of spiritual exercises. And ma'azallah, it can even take a person to kufr as well. It can take a person to kufr. How do we cure the batini qabz? ये इलाज अहलुल्लाह की नज़र के ज़रिए बेहतर तरीके से हो सकता है, लेकिन आजकल औलिया की सोहबतें निहायत ही कमयाब हैं, पहचान भी कम ही लोगों को होती है. Even awliya exist, at least 300 awliya will exist in every era up until Qiyamah, but not everyone can recognize them, and many times people don't understand, and they are very rare. So, इस बातिनी कब्ज़ के इलाज के लिए आज के ज़माने अगर वली कामिल की सोहबत मुयस्सर ना हो तो उनके मज़ारात की हाज़िरी भी इंशाअल्लाह बेहद मुफीद रहेगी. If you can't be in the company of a wali whilst he's alive, then visit his grave. Because remember, awliya Allah la yamutun bal yantakiluna min darin ila dar. The friends of Allah don't die; they transfer from one home to another home. So they die for one. They do die; their souls are taken, but their souls are still alive, and they still are attached to their graves. And when you visit their graves, their ruh and their soul is still having an impact on the soul of the visitors. And doing Isali Sawab as well. Ruhani Batini Qabz, firstly, be in the company of awliya. If you can't, then be in their mazars, visit their mazars, and also do Isali Sawab. So this is very important, and not just from an Aqidah point of view as well, but our urses that we do, about mashayikh, that's very important. It's very important. There's a specific spiritual disease called Batini Qabz, which really requires for its treatment the nazar of the awliya. And so that makes our urses, we shouldn't underestimate them and not just treat them like it's just a gathering. Of course, it's a great way of bringing people to the masjid, but there's actually specific spiritual darknesses that are removed by the nazar and the tawajjuh of the awliya, which we would not be able to do just by doing zikr on our own. So we shouldn't underestimate the greatness of the tawajjuh of the Salaf Salihin. So spiritual darkness, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. Sarkar Dwarim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, one of the very famous hadiths, one of the common du'as of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min qalbin la yakhsha. Oh Allah, I ask you for protection from a heart that does not fear you. That does not fear you. A heart will not fear. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the more ilm that you have, the more knowledge you have of Allah, the more you fear Him. And I have most knowledge amongst the makhluk of Allah, and I fear Him the most as well. So everyone fears Allah. Fear is very important. Sarkar Dwarim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when you fear Allah, you don't fear anyone else. But if you don't fear Allah, if you don't fear Allah ta'ala, you created, then you will fear everyone else. You will fear everyone else. So people in this day and age think that by not fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're going to live happily. But I just told you what the rates of depression are. And how people, the different types of anxiety and the different types of stress is because when people don't fear Allah Ta'ala, then they fear everyone. Allah leaves you to your own devices. He then leaves you. Another great dua of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allahumma ja'al sarirati khayran min alaniyati. Oh Allah, make my internal state better than my external state. Waj'al alaniyati salihatan. Allah, make my internal state, my heart, better than my outer, my external state. But make my external state good as well. So Ya Allah, make my heart better than. And we know the Holy Prophet ﷺ said du'as like this for our tarbiyat, to teach us, for us to repeat, so that that dua becomes a sunnah and we need that dua. Huzur ﷺ, batin is the most sublime thing, the greatest creation of Allah. It's his through the batin of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that every other individual and all of the makhluk gets their rozi and gets the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some things are not even haram, but just because they're fuzul, they can affect your spirituality. Like the hadith I mentioned, speaking excessively, fuzul goi, The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, hard is the heart. Halanki, it's not haram. It's not haram. See, a lot of wasalis, the ulama say that hadith-e-nafs, which is too much overthinking, too many wasalis of the shaitan, too many temptations, which is not a sin. For a person to just have a temptation in his mind, a waswasa, that's not a guna. But having too much of them, that would harden your heart as well. That will harden your heart as well. There's one riwayat, al-battala, which is idleness, farid baithe rehna, and susti, kasal. These harden the heart as well. These are spiritual. So when we talk about spirituality and the soul, it's not just the sins, it's not just the guna and the gunah kabiras and the gunah. It's things. There are other things that harden the heart as well. So it's very important. Allah Ta'ala does not like to see a vacant youngster. Allah Ta'ala farid naujawan ko pasand nahi karta. Keep yourself. Allah Ta'ala does not like to see a youngster who is vacant, a youngster who is not occupied in something religious or something halal dunyawi. Because when you're vacant and you're unoccupied, then you are a easy target for the shaitan. An easy target for the shaitan. And there's an English saying as well that the devil tempts all, but the idle man tempts the devil. The devil tempts all, but the idle man tempts the devil. So when you're idle, when you're vacant, when you're not doing anything, then the shaitan is going to attack you more. So keep yourself busy. That's what the hadith says. It doesn't have to be doing zikr all the time. Zikr as much as you can, or something worldly, halal. So the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't not do, the Sufiya said, don't stop doing the zikr because you don't feel the presence of your heart. You know, dil nahi lag raha namaz mein, wo khushu khuzur nahi aa raha. One shaykh, one murid, he was a student, he said to his teacher, Huzur, I pray namaz, but I don't feel the khushu, I don't feel the concentration. And the shaykh said, congratulations, Mubarakku. Mubarakku, it means that you're praying namaz only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you were praying it for your personal maza and khushu enjoyment as well, it would have meant that you were doing it for your self-gratification as well. The fact that you're not experiencing khushu means you're doing it 100% for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's a certain maza, a submission. Islam is submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a certain maza in doing something, in obeying Allah ta'ala when you don't even understand the command that He's given you. And in fact, you're not even feeling the peace, you're not feeling the maza, but you're still doing it. Just because Allah Ta'ala has told you to do it, there's a certain maza in doing that ibadat. Some people worship Allah Ta'ala out of fear, which is okay. Fear of His azab. That's the worship of the slaves. Some people worship because they want Jannat. That's okay as well, you get sawab. That's the worship of businessmen. Some people worship Allah Ta'ala just because He deserves to be worshipped, to thank Him. That is ibadatul ahrar, the worship of free men, the highest level of worship. All three will get sawab, all three are valid, but the third is the greatest one, where you worship Him. Even if there was no heaven and hell, it would still be wajib for us to worship Him. If someone says, if Jannat and Dozakh doesn't exist, I wouldn't worship Allah Ta'ala, that would be a kufriya statement, it would be blasphemy. So don't not worship Allah Ta'ala because you don't feel the hudur of your heart, the presence of your heart. Because at least, like one shaykh, his murid, he said, Huzur, wo zikr karta hu, zikr mein dil nahi lagta. And the shaykh said, shukr kar, at least your tongue is doing the zikr of Allah Ta'ala. At least one part of your body is engaged in the zikr of Allah. That's better than your heart and your tongue both being negligent. One day Allah Ta'ala will give your heart the presence as well. You keep at it. And it's like, when you're ill. So sometimes, something, when you're bimar, you have a fever. You might not taste it, affects your taste buds. You'll taste something sweet, but it won't taste sweet. That's because you're sick and it's affected your taste buds. It doesn't mean the thing you put in your mouth is not sweet. It means you've got a problem with your senses. So the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sweet. It's because we're addicted and obsessed to sins, and we've got dark hearts and souls and minds that we can't experience that sweetness. Once we cure our hearts by the fazl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we start experiencing that. So we shouldn't think that jab dil hazir nahi hai to zuban se zikr karne ka fayda kya. There's like one story the Sufiya mentioned. One person was doing the zikr of Allah ta'ala and the shaitan put a waswasa in his mind. You're always saying Allah, Allah, but you never get an answer from Allah ta'ala. You never get an answer from him. Kabhi jawab nahi milta wahan se. So that person, he felt dil bardasht, he sort of, the shaitan got to him. Then toot gaya. And when he slept that night and he saw the Prophet Khizr alayhi salam in his dream. And the Prophet Khizr said, why did you stop doing the zikr of Allah ta'ala? And he said, I've been saying Allah, Allah for so long, but I never got a response, a spiritual response. And I thought that maybe Allah ta'ala has rejected my zikr. That's why I'm not getting the response. And the Prophet Khizr alayhi salam said to him in his dream that Allah ta'ala has commanded me to visit you and to tell you that you're doing the zikr of Allah is the answer from Allah. That is the answer. If Allah Ta'ala's rahmat was not focused on you, wouldn't be mentioning His name in the first place. That is His jawab. That is His answer. तेरे दिल में जो सोज़ो गुदाज पैदा होता है वो भी हमारा ही तो पैदा किया हुआ. The enjoyment and the satisfaction that you feel in your heart, that is the answer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. तेरे हर या अल्लाह कहने में हमारी 100 लब्बैक पोशीदा है. Every time you say Allah wants, I reply with 100 labbaiks. Labbaik means I'm here. So for us to expect don't look for karamat. Alhamdulillah, we believe in karamat. But I think it was Mullah Adhikari Rahmatullahi who says in his commentary of Sharaf-e Akbar, he says we believe in karamat, but he says one mistake sometimes we can make is because we listen to karamat so much, we start wanting karamat. We start wanting to see, we start wanting to have experiences, like out-of-body experiences ourselves as well. But when you want a karamat, then there's a certain level of takabbur and khud-pasandi and ujb, pride inside. Allah Ta'ala doesn't give karamat to people who can still see their nafses. He doesn't give karamat to people who want them. He gives karamat and miracles to the people who annihilate their nafses, who don't want the karamat. And keep in mind that the awliya who display, not every wali, it's not a shart to be a wali to show a karamat. And the awliya who show karamat are not necessarily better than the ones who don't show the karamat. So it's not, that's our aqidah. Karamat wale wali mutlakan bighair karamat wale awliya se afzal nahi. So but anyway, kun talib al-istiqamati la talib al-karamati. Be a seeker of istiqamat, of perseverance. Don't be a seeker of karamat. Ask Allah for istiqamat. Istiqamat itself is a great miracle. It's a great miracle. So be a seeker of istiqamat and not a seeker of karamat. The heart, my dear brothers, it's like Sayyidina Abdullah bin Barik radiallahu ta'ala. He said the heart is like a mirror, like an ayna. If it stays uncleaned and unpolished for a long time, then it will get dusty. So you need to keep your eye on your heart. And he also says, he gives another example, it's like an animal. The heart is like an animal. And if it's left untrained and unguarded, it becomes wild and uncontrollable. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is the heart is like a feather. The heart has been compared to a feather in the hadith. That it's easy to toss it about. Feathers are very light. So the Arabic word for heart is qalb, and qalb means to turn around, because the heart changes all the time, it's all the same. So you have to keep an eye on it. Like the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that when you memorize a verse of the Quran, then keep on repeating it. Protect the Quran, because the Quran very quickly runs away. it can leave your heart very quickly. It can be very easy to forget the Quran. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it's like a camel. The camel easily runs away from its owner. He said when you memorize the Quran, keep on repeating it to yourself. And the reason for that is the Quran is the speech of Allah Ta'ala, and the speech of Allah Ta'ala is one of His sifat, which is qadeem. It's not a creation. So we're hadis. We are a creation. If you want, when you don't repeat the Quran, you're disrespecting it, you've been ungrateful, nashukri for the blessing of the Quran, and so you lose that blessing. So the heart is like a mirror, it needs to be wiped, it needs to be kept. You have to keep an eye on it constantly. Sayyidi Allah Hazrat Rahmatullah Alayhi, you know what intentions, it's not the intention that first is misguided, it's the body. First your eyes, first your eyes are led astray, and then your heart goes astray. First it's the eyes and then it's the heart. So the eyes have to be controlled, my dear brothers. We have to control our eyes, especially in this day and age where so much filth around us, so much obscenity, and the images on the TV screens, etc. around us. The Holy Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the greatest fitna that I have left for people after me is women. The greatest fitna can mean test. The greatest test for men is women. So that's the greatest test. And there's a hadith sharif in which the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that badnigahi, this is a poisoned dipped arrow of the shaitan. It's a poison dipped arrow of the shaitan. It's an arrow that never falls off target. An arrow that never hits off target, always hits the target. But then the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does not look at a haram image due to the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah ta'ala will create in his heart an ibadat that He will give him lazzat, He will give him a special form of lazzat. So when a person saves, because he's doing badnigahi, he is misusing his eyes, he's looking at a woman for pleasure, for this pleasure. But if he avoids looking at her, Allah Ta'ala will replace that with a spiritual pleasure. With a spiritual pleasure. And there's another hadith which says that whoever turns his eye away from something haram, Allah Ta'ala will give him iman in his heart. The words there are أَثَابَهُ اللَّهُ إِيمَانًا بَعْدَ يَجِدُ حَلَاوَتَهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. Allah Ta'ala will give him iman, and he will feel the sweetness of iman inside his heart. The other hadith was the sweetness of ibadat, and this hadith says the sweetness of iman. A slight variation of words, but the mafhum is the same, that whenever you give up a pleasure or a temptation of the dunya out of fear of Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala will replace it with the pure spiritual pleasure inside your heart. And Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, He tells us our weakness. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. Man has been created weak. This especially is referring to men. Because the Mufassirin say that what this ayah karima, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, इंसान को ضعीफ कमज़ोर पैदा किया गया है, man has been created weak. What it means, the Mufassirin say, is that men cannot resist the temptation of looking at women. So it specifically is regarding men. So we should take sabak from our Salaf Salihin regarding this. So first the eyes, if you want to control your heart, you have to control your eyes. पहली आंख बहती है, फिर दिल बहता है. Your intentions are corrupted after the corruption of the eyes. Okay? Because your eyes and your ears are the windows of your heart. They're the windows of your heart. So it's important. There was one sheikh who, it was Eid day, and he went to pray Eid Salah, and he came back, and his wife, she said, well, how many women have you looked at today on the way to Eid and back, on the way to the Ramaz, how many women? And he didn't answer, but she insisted, tell me how many women you looked at when you were outside. And he said, since the time I left my house, and I went to pray Eid, and I returned, The only thing I saw were the toes of my feet. The only thing I saw were the toes of my feet. That was the Salaf Salihin and the control, of their eyes. So the heart, to control our intentions, we have to control our eyes and our ears as well. So intention, my dear brother, Allah Ta'ala doesn't punish you for intention. Sirf niyat pe Allah Ta'ala azab nahi farmata. And if someone has a bad thought in his heart, he doesn't, it's not a guna. But this is very important. If you make a firm intention for a sin, if you're determined. Now there's a difference between just having a thought and having a waswasa. And there's a difference between that and making a firm intention that I'm definitely going to watch a certain film, or I'm definitely going to do something haram, or meet someone I shouldn't be meeting. If it's a definite intention, if it's a conviction and you're determined, then that intention is a sin as well, even if you don't do that thing later on. Okay? So even intentions can be split up into 2 or 3 parts. You have that initial intention, which is not firm. It's just an idea. Allah Ta'ala does not punish you. If you punish us just for ideas and waswase, it'd be impossible for us to avoid them. Because wasadis to aate hi hai. But when that initial idea turns into a firm conviction, then it's a guna, then it started to blacken the heart, it started to darken the soul and the spirit. So we have to be very careful. So even when if you've made the intention with your friends to watch a movie or to listen to music or something, later on we're going to get together to do this and it's a firm intention, now even though you've intended to do the thing 8 hours later or 9 hours later, but it started affecting your spirituality straight away. Your ruhaniyat is being affected, your soul and your heart is being affected straight away. The Sufiya say that even when you intend, and here by intention means a firm intention, firm determination to commit a sin, even if you've not committed the sin, but just because of that firm intention, you will not experience the halawat of ibadah, the sweetness of worship, the pleasure of worship. So controlling our intentions is very important, and as I said earlier, we often think intentions first and then action comes, but we need to rearrange that. Imam Ghazali says that sometimes your intention affects the action, sometimes it's the action that affects the intention. Sometimes, because you see, if you hadn't looked at that woman, you wouldn't have these thoughts in your mind. If you control your eyes, so it's the eyes, it's the action, it's the body language that's affecting the intention. Sayyidi Ala Hazrat Rahmatullah says, first the eyes go astray, then the heart goes astray, and then the private parts go astray. That's when that's the order of things. At the core of spirituality is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Love. So the core of ruhaniyat is loving Allah and His Rasul more than you love your own fathers and you love your own children. Allah and His Rasul love you more than your own parents love you, more than your children love you, more than your families love you. Okay. And so if the core of spirituality is the love of Allah and His Rasul, the core of love is humility and trust. Humility and tawakkul are the core of love. And for humility, in front of the ahkamat of Allah Ta'ala, humility and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I said earlier, when you trust Allah, then He will provide for you from the unseen. When you trust Allah, He will feed you from places you can't even imagine. When you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with patience and taqwa, then even if the 7 skies conspire to plot against you, He will make openings, He will make solutions and take you out of those conspiracies from places you can't even imagine. But when you don't trust Allah, then He leaves you to the people. When it's the people you trust, He leaves you to the asbab. But at the core of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is humility. And we live in a day and age where humility is not really encouraged. The opposite of humility is, I do things the way I feel. If I understand, if I see the benefit of this, if I understand it, if I can see the benefit, then I'll do it. That's not what submission is. That's not what humility is. Humility is about trusting, it's about being vulnerable. In the bargah of Allah, you have to let your guard down. You have to put your akal aside and bring the heart forward. Be vulnerable, trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not come with your akal in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The akal is the wazir. It's the advisor of the heart. The heart is the king of your body. The heart is the king. The aql is the wazir, the mushir, the advisor. Don't turn your aql into the king. The aql is not the king. The heart is the king. The aql is the mushir of the king. It's a deputy advisor. Don't turn the deputy into the king. So in the bargah of Allah, ishq is required. That requires trust. That requires letting our guard, and that requires being vulnerable, opening up your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not being in the court of Allah with pride or with vanity. Anyone who prays namaz with vanity and takabbur, his namaz does not rise above his head. जिसकी नमाज में तकब्बुर हो, उसकी नमाज को सर से ऊंची नहीं होती, बारगाह में इलाही तक नहीं पहुंचती. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. There's so many things, inshallah, hopefully. Jazakallah for the opportunity to the masjid, giving me the opportunity to talk on these issues. And inshallah, hopefully, this theme of spirituality in 2020 will keep this going. I hope that I've said, if there's even one thing that you can take away that's beneficial, something practical. So my intention is not just, if we talk about theory, we can talk about theory and philosophy. Some people just philosophize all day long but don't do anything. They talk all day long and they don't do anything. That's not going to get us anywhere. Practical advice is what we need, something that we can do, we can take away, something that can change the way we think straight away instantly. Okay, so a practical wazifa, reciting A'udhu Billah 10 times every single day. A practical thing that we can start doing straight away is be more vulnerable when you're doing your du'as in the bargah of Allah Ta'ala. When you pray namaz, pray with fear. So Sarkari Du'alim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, when you pray namaz, pray as though that's your final namaz and you're not going to get a chance to pray another one. The more fear you have for Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, that fear leads to love as well. That fear of Allah will lead you ultimately to love. It's not the fear that turns you into depression or anxiety. It's not that. That's dunyawi fear. Religious fear will open your heart, will open the doors of wisdom to your heart. And religious fear of Allah Ta'ala, fear of His azab, will actually lead you to the love of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala as well. So that's something we can do straight away in our du'as. You know, Allah Ta'ala's, the sunnat-e-ilahi is different to the sunnat of people. People don't like the one who asks them. If every time you phone me, it's always because you need some money from me, then naturally we don't like the person who only calls us when he needs something. And we like the people humans like other humans who don't need them, who are not dependent on them. But the sunnah of Allah Ta'ala is the opposite. It's the opposite. Allah Ta'ala, the more you ask Him, the more He loves you. He loves the ones that ask Him more, and He dislikes the ones who do not ask Him. So Sunnat-e-Ilahi is different. The Sunnat, I don't want to be disrespectful in English, not use the wrong word. The Sunnat of Allah Ta'ala, maybe habit, I think is valid. The habit of Allah Ta'ala is not the same with regards to asking as is the habit of the people. People don't like the one who asks. But But Allah Ta'ala dislikes the one who doesn't ask. And He loves those who ask Him. So may Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to be changed, change our hearts, change our attitudes, and change our actions. Ameen bijahi Nabi. Ameen sallallahu
अल्लाह का हम शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं। यकीनन आज की इस महफिल में जो रूहानी एतबार से हमारे ज़ाहिर और बातिन कैसे संवारा जाए और हमें अपना ज़ाहिर और बातिन कैसे ठीक करना चाहिए, कैसे उसको दुरुस्त करना चाहिए, उसके हवाले से कुरान और अहादीस और बुजुर्गान दीन के अक़वाल के हवाले से माशाअल्लाह बहुत सारी गुफ्तगू हुई है। मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ कि हमारे नौजवानों को, हमारी माँ बहनों को ये बात ज़रूर जो है वो पसंद आएगी और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह उस पर अमल भी करेंगे। अल्लाह तबारक व तआला हम सबको ऐसी महफिल की रूहानी फैज़ व बरकत से मालामाल फरमाए और ऐसे उलमाए किराम जो अपनी दीनी खिदमत फी सबीलिल्लाह खुलूस दिल के साथ, लिल्लहियत के साथ, बगैर किसी तसन्नो के जो कर रहे हैं, अल्लाह तबारक व तआला उनके इन खिदमत को भी खूब मंजूर फरमाए। अब आइए मुख्तसर सलातो सलाम का नजराना पेश कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद